everyone, and welcome to another episode of From a Woman to a Leader. And today I'm super excited to host a wonderful guest, Inbal Claudio, and we're going to talk about how to build genuine personal relationships to grow your business and thrive in life. And Inbal is the founder of Like-Minded Collective, a social networking platform for women entrepreneurs. And she also had another company, completely different, for candles. And welcome, Inbal. I'm super excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Limor. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, likewise. So tell us, Inbal, kind of a little bit about your background and how did you become the founder of Like-Minded Collective?
Yeah, so I am originally from Israel and I moved to the States when I was very young. I was 3 and grew up here. When I was 16, I started working, and shortly after that, I realized that it was difficult for me to work for a company without giving my input because I wanted to see it grow. And sometimes my input wasn't well received. Sometimes it wasn't implemented. And I just realized quickly that I needed to eventually work for myself and to create a company that I was able to grow in ways that I knew it could. And so I went into real estate. I had a brokerage. And then my husband and I, when we met, we moved to North Carolina, and I started a candle company just because it was more mobile. And it was great. I was doing a lot of in-person shows. I was having, a lot of success with farmers markets. And then my first daughter was born, and I had to pivot to the online space. And I just didn't know how to do that. I had no entrepreneur friends. I felt like everybody wanted to charge me money for something, a course or a mastermind or something, even posting on Facebook, people were charging. And there was nothing free. There was nothing with resources that I could really connect with people who were in my same shoes. And so I wanted to create that. So Like-Minded Collective is a social networking platform for women entrepreneurs specifically. And it's free. So we have free community, we have free resources, we have free networking. And then we have a search feature that's much better than Facebook and LinkedIn, which saves you so much time when you're looking for who you want to connect with. So I created it for myself, essentially. It's been amazing.
Wow, that sounds incredible. I'm gonna sign up for sure. How many women do you have in your community?
So we launched about a year and a half ago, and we just passed 2,000 women.
That's incredible.
Thank you. I've pivoted a couple times. And of course, not all those 2,000 are active and engaging. But we have the people who are, and the women that are in there are so genuine, and they just really want to create friendships. We've had people connect in person. We've had people create their own events. We've had podcast swaps, collaborations, referrals. It's just really a place where people can go to just build genuine relationships with one another.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, about building genuine relationships. Why is it so important?
I think that especially now when so many women are starting their own companies and their businesses, everyone is told to go and network. And there's a lot of people who are doing a lot of the same things. There's a lot of female communities out there. There's a lot of coaches. There's a lot of podcasters. And in order to stand out, you have to create those really personal and genuine relationships with other people to be a person, not just to be this DM on Instagram or LinkedIn that says, oh, hey, this is what I do. Do you want to book a free discovery call? That's boring. But if I were to message you and say like, oh, hey, I see you're also, it looks like you're Israeli, I'm also from Israel. I would love to chat and see if we can maybe find a collaboration somehow. It comes off so different. And then if I have a referral for you, or you have a referral for me, we've built that connection already. So you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to send it to Inbal, or I'm going to send them to Limo, So it's so important because you're looked at as more of a person than just somebody that I'm going to use to get another client.
Absolutely. And I can really relate to that because I can share that when I started my business, I was an employee my whole life. And I strongly believe in just helping people and building connections rather than, hard selling myself. Like, hey, I'm a coach, come work with me. And that's, one of the reasons why I do this podcast to kind of help others. And that's how I meet people like you. So that's a win-win for me.
Yeah, exactly. And, podcasts are a great way because we're connecting on a deeper level. We're having conversation and you're going to be top of mind for me, and then who knows the people that I can connect you with after, or you can connect me with. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a great podcast. I have friends that also do podcasts. Maybe you guys can collaborate. So it just really spreads your wings of your business so much further. And then on top of that, you don't know who you're going to be friends with. Like I have 3 girlfriends that were in a Voxer group chat together. And we all do very similar things. We all do in-person events and we do consulting or coaching and helping women. And they're coming out to California in 2 weeks and we're having a mini mastermind. We're going to spend 3 days together. So you never know what could happen once you build those relationships.
That's wonderful. And tell me, what do you think some you mentioned the word networking. So what are some misconceptions around that that women thinks about networking?
So, like I said, I was in real estate for a long time, and I think people associate networking with name tags, coming in and shaking hands and, real estate agents, loan officers, insurance brokers, and just looking for referrals and clients, but really networking in person or virtual is the same thing as what we were talking about before, is just finding people who have commonalities and reaching out and just saying like, hey, do you want to have a coffee chat? Or, hey, do you want to Zoom for like 15 minutes? It sounds like we're doing something very similar. And even though you're doing something very similar, you could be perfect referral clients. Because if I'm doing something, let's just use social media managers, for example. If I'm a social media manager and I'm helping women who make 6 or 7 figures, and I find a social media manager that helps women who are making 4 to 5 figures, we're perfect collaboration partners because we can refer women back and forth to one another. So if I'm coming across a problem, most likely this other social media manager has also come across that problem. So I think the misconception when it comes to networking is you have to just go and meet as many people as you can and just, talk to them and make sure they know what you're doing. When in all reality, if you just go into a room and walk up to somebody and say like, hey, I'm Inbal, how are you? Or what's your name? Or what do you do? It just comes off so much more genuine than if you walk up and say, oh, hey, like what, who's your ideal referral? Which I've had people come up to me and say that. I'm like, you don't even know what I do.
Yeah, exactly. It gets
you
too,
know?
okay, let's just get what we can out of each other and move on.
Exactly. And I think people think too much about it too. And they get nervous and they don't want to go to events, whether they're in person or virtual. But there's, if you just approach it as just going to meet new people and having fun, then the mindset is a little bit different. The way we do virtual networking at Like Minded Collective is everybody is welcome however they are. There's babies on the call, there's kids on the call sometimes, women nursing on the call. So it's really a place where you just show up. If you can't turn your camera on, that's totally fine. But as long as you're showing up, you will 100% get value.
Absolutely. That sounds wonderful. And I wanted to ask you about women in tech. I mean, I know that because I've been there, I've always dreaded events and going out there and, how am I going to approach people I don't know? So what do you recommend for women in tech who wants to really, and I have a lot of clients women who wants to grow in their career and they want to know like-minded people, they want to maybe meet more influential leaders. How would they go about it?
My one piece of advice is don't be afraid to reach out to people and go to events. I'm an introvert. It's hard for me to go into a room, especially being in tech, as you know, there's maybe 10% women in the room when you walk in. And so for me, I just beeline it to the first girl I see. And I'm like, hey, can I join you? And it's always well received. And the conversation just goes from there. I think when women want to connect with more influential women, LinkedIn is a great resource. I've sent so many messages to women who I'm like, hey, I would love to hear about your experience being a woman in tech. Some respond, some don't, but I've had some amazing conversations with women, either just through voice notes on LinkedIn or just messaging or Zoom. So I think just the first step is really putting yourself out there and being okay with hearing the word no. But I think there's so many women in tech right now that just want to see other women in tech succeed. And whether that be like giving a piece of advice or helping or connecting them with somebody else. I think from what I've seen and the experience that I've seen, there's also a lot of women on Instagram now that are going to tech conferences and doing like women meetups at tech conferences all around the US. So that's also really big. So trying to find women, I think her name is, I don't remember her name, but her Instagram handle is Jen She, GEN.she. And she goes to a lot of tech conferences. And she does a lot of women meetups. So there's a lot of people who are really trying to expand the women community amongst tech founders. So it's really nice to see.
Wow, I'm just typing that. I'll look her up. Yeah, I think just people are a lot of time afraid to reach out to someone they don't know and ask for, hey, can we meet? I would love to hear about your experiences. And more times people will respond and be willing to help rather than ignore you. Sometimes they will. Sometimes people ignore just because they are not in LinkedIn. They're not really checking their messages. It happens. But many times they will.
Yeah, there's also Facebook groups. I'm a part of a few that are really focused on women in tech. There's a lot of, I think it's called Girls in Tech communities in LA. I think they're all over the US that also really focus on creating community amongst women. I know in Israel, there is tons of women in tech, so I'm sure there's events there as well. But yeah, and I know in LA, there's Facebook groups, there's meetups. In New York, there's some. I know there's Tech Week that happens in a few places across the US, and they do women events and have open those conversations. And so honestly, my biggest advice is just go, step out of your comfort zone, go. You don't even know who you're going to meet. I went to this one event during Tech Week, and like I said, I walked in and it was like overwhelming. But I told myself, I left my 2-month-old with my husband and my 2 other children. I have to go in and make a connection.
Wow.
And so I made a couple of friends. I'm actually going to see one of them again in a couple of weeks. I'm going to another tech summit here for women. And I'm going to see her and we're going to connect. So it's just about making yourself go and making yourself show up. I know it's very intimidating, especially because it is a male-dominated industry. There's a chance you're going to work with men or your developer is going to be male. And so even making those connections just so that somebody can hop on a call with you if you're not educated enough to have those conversations yourself, or to hire a coach that could help you. Even just saying like, can I hire you for an hour to hop on a call with me to make sure I'm not getting taken advantage of? Something like that, so just making connections. And that boils down to everything we started to talk about, is just creating genuine relationships, because that's going to take you so much farther in your career and in life. Just making those, building your own community, essentially, of people who are in the same boat as you and have shared experiences.
Yes, absolutely. I think I'm an introvert too, and I'm always dreading like going to events with a lot of people. It's just, as you said, like, okay, I invested the time, sometimes money, and I prioritize that. So I'm just going to go there and try to meet people.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to. You have to. And there's actually a really good podcast that my friend just did. I can send you the link to attach it if you
Yeah.
want. She did a 3-part series on networking for introverts. So I forgot what part 1 was. Maybe it was people. And the second part was places, and the third part was conversations. So she brings in she around 10 plus people per episode to give their insight on how to network for introverts. So what to do if you're an introvert and you walk into a room and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? What do I say? How do I stop the conversation? How do I continue the conversation? Where do I go? So I'll give you the link to that. It's a really good 3-part series.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Yeah. I can say I'm not a pro, but I usually just go with the basics, right? Hi, how are you? I'm Limor. Where are you from? What brings you here? Talking a little bit about, oh, the flight, the hotel, like stuff like that. Just kind
Yeah.
of start a conversation and then things just flow.
Exactly. And the best thing you have to remember is people love talking about themselves. So if you just ask questions about them, they'll just continue talking. You don't have to do much, listening is something, and this is actually what she was saying in the last part. She said introverts actually have a 1-up when it comes to networking and building connections because they listen so well. They're asking the questions, they're listening to what people say. And as opposed to people who just keep talking and then you're not learning anything about anybody else, So going in with those questions, and now it's so easy. You can just go to ChatGPT and say, what are, 10 questions that I can ask at a networking event if I don't know somebody, for female founders in Southern California, whatever it may be. But you can just have a few questions in your back pocket to ask.
Yes, for sure. I love ChatGPT. I use it quite a lot. So
Yeah.
definitely it's very, very helpful. I think just going there, relax and say, yeah, I'm here to make some friends, maybe just meet interesting people,
Mm-hmm.
just have fun.
Yeah, exactly. And try to be what I love to do, because I love connecting people. That's what brings me the most amount of joy. Is I always ask, is there somebody that I can connect you with now that could help benefit your business? And if they tell me who it is and I know somebody, then I just make a note and I connect them. And that way you're also providing value to them. So you want to provide value as well, if you can. And if there isn't somebody that I know, then I just kind of keep it in my back pocket. And then one day I will. I connected with somebody who told me she wants to really get into speaking more at conferences. And I was looking at events to go to a year ago, and I came across one and it said, oh, looking for speakers. So it took me 5 seconds to email her the link and say, hey, just thought of you. This came up and I saw that they were looking for speakers. And so that's how our relationship grew slowly, is because I started that conversation with something that she needed. So I provided her value, and that's just how it continued. So it's really, you can also try to provide value in a way, that always helps to build more of a genuine relationship with somebody.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's always good. And what other strategies do you have to kind of, okay, you met someone, you got their contact information. How do you keep kind of the conversation going? How do you
Conversation.
keep that relationship?
So for me, what I do, I have this community. I have Like Minded Collective. But I'm also a community building consultant. I love helping women build out communities for their brands, businesses, anything they need. I think it's so valuable. So for me, what I do, and this is kind of a win-win situation, is I'll message them or I'll email them or LinkedIn, whatever. And I say, hey, first name, always include the first name. So it's not a generic message.
Yeah.
Hey, first name. So nice meeting you at the Women Venture Summit this past weekend. I would love to connect. And if there's anything community building related that I can help with, please feel free to reach out. So I'm opening the door with a question. A lot of people have community building questions. They want to know how to collaborate, how to network, how to build partnerships. So I'm happy to answer those on a voice note. And that also builds my authority in the, in the community building space. And I'm helping them and I'm staying top of mind. So I always make sure to connect with their first name, where we met, and then some sort of, again, value that I can provide them that takes me 5 seconds. And that way, when you message people, as you know, on Instagram, when you message with people, they're going to show up first in your search. So now my posts are going to be first, my messages, my stories, everything is going to be first for them. And that way I also stay top of mind. So I always make it super personal. And I always ask a question that could possibly help them. And if they say, oh, great, thank you so much, I'm like, no problem, reach out anytime.
Yeah.
So
And you mentioned Instagram and LinkedIn. Which, how do I know which one to use?
I think it depends. I always ask people, I say, hey, what's your social platform of choice? Where do you prefer to hang out? And so they'll tell you, and you always want to do that. So what you could do is if they give you a business card, you can even put like LinkedIn, or you can even take a screenshot of their business card. And then on the iPhone, you can, text like, or type LI, like just write it on there with the drawing feature. So you can do that. Or you can put like 2 different pockets in your purse and say like business cards for LinkedIn go here, business cards for Instagram go here. You can do it however you want, but I would just ask them where they prefer. Because if they're on LinkedIn, you message them on Instagram, they don't respond to you, then,
Yeah.
Or they can just do a connection request right away from you. So for me on my business card, I have a QR code so I have 2. I have like a business card with a QR code that's like the dot one. I don't know. There's a million of them now, like the digital business card. It has all my information so they can scan that. And I have a paper one just in case the Wi-Fi is wonky or the service is wonky or there's too many people in the building and the digital one doesn't work. So I have a paper one and it has a QR code of my LinkedIn. So sometimes people will just scan the LinkedIn and connect with me right then and there. So it's really easy. And I have my photo on my business card too. So people remember.
Yes.
So that helps too.
That helps. Actually, I recently did, business cards, like paper. I wasn't sure. I went to a conference in May, and after I haven't been in a big conference for a while, and I wasn't sure like, are business cards really used today? I mean, or it's just like you just open LinkedIn and you connect. And I decided to do similar to yours. Like I did a very simple one, but with my picture and QR code. And that's how like people can, because you meet so many people, a lot of times you don't remember who this person was.
Exactly. I actually was curious about that too, because I got the digital one and I went to this event and I had the problem of there were too many people in the room and they were scanning the QR code and it wouldn't load. The service was so slow. And so I was like, I need to order paper business cards. But I was wondering, do people actually still do this? And so
I wasn't sure,
Yeah, and a lot of people are. And it's funny because when I pull out my paper ones now, they're like, oh, thank God you also have it. It's like they're embarrassed to bring out their paper business cards. I'm like, this is so easy. This is so cool. And now you can make them so pretty and like on really nice paper. So yeah, a lot of people have them still. They may be embarrassed to pull them out, but if you pull it out first, they'll pull theirs out.
I don't know. I didn't feel embarrassed. I just wasn't sure if it's even used anymore, but yes, it is. I just did something super simple with staples, something, because I was so overwhelmed with all the fancy ones. I said like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, like which designs to choose. I was like, okay, I'll just go to Staples. I'll just get something quick that looks decent and get over with it. So
yeah,
definitely.
I mean, it does the job, right? And you have a one-up if other people's business cards don't work, then you can just give them yours.
Yeah, for sure. And, I wanted to ask you something about, community and like I had just a person I coached today and she said, I need to find a tribe, right? A tribe of like-minded individuals that I could connect to. How do you find a tribe? How do you create your tribe of people that really are like-minded, that you know that they're going to support you?
I think it takes time, and it's like a relationship, that you get into with your significant other. You have to kiss a few frogs before you find the one. And you meet people, you have that conversation, and if you're on the same page, you continue the conversation and you're intentional about it. I'm always the one to initiate something. So I'm in a cohort of some sort for women. I don't really know what to call it, but there's about 100 women in there. And so I posted in the chat, like during our first call, I was like, hey, I'm in Southern California. A few other women were. I said, here's my Instagram, send me a message. They sent me a message. I said, hey, do you guys want to I put them all in one group. And I said, do you guys want to do a weekly call? After we have our group call, we can just connect just us and connect, since we're all very local, and maybe we can meet in person. And so a lot of them said yes. So I always facilitate conversation, and sometimes those relationships are great. And sometimes you're like, they're not my people. And that's okay. They can be like business acquaintances. You don't have to spend too much time. They don't need to be in your tribe. But you have to just try and see and try to build those relationships. It takes effort, right? Like a relationship takes effort, like a friendship takes effort. You have to be intentional about reaching out. You have to be intentional about sharing their information. Try to support them as much as you can. If you see that they're posting something on Instagram or LinkedIn, like maybe they're a mom and they're just having the hardest week with their kids, or their husband's gone or something, send them a message. Say like, hey, do you want to go on a phone call and chat for a little bit? Try to dig deeper past business. And that's how you're going to build your community and your tribe. Like the women that I said were on the Voxer together in the Voxer group chat. I connected with one of them because we were going to do a podcast together, and we just clicked. It was so easy to chat, and we stayed connected. She joined Like Minded Collective. I connected with another girl that was going to do a workshop for me. She was on Like Minded Collective. They both went to the same networking event. They do the exact same thing. They connected. So now the three of us are connected. And another girl that they met also does in-person events. They met at an in-person event actually in Arizona. And so we're intentional about continuing that conversation with one another, whether it's personal stuff, whether it's boyfriend stuff or husband stuff or kids stuff or wedding stuff. We talk about it, So, and of course, business.
Yeah.
So I think when people need to find their tribe and their community, I think you just need to really work hard at continuing the relationship. But the first step is always to show up and to network and to try to meet people. Like I said, like go to the Facebook groups where people are and post, say, so many people are looking for the same thing. They're looking for a community. Everybody is. Post in these Facebook groups and say, hey, I'm looking for women to just connect with and to just be friends with. And I guarantee you that there will be 100 comments of people who want the same thing. And just create it. As entrepreneurs, that's what we do, right? We create things that we're lacking. So be the first person to create that Zoom. And as an introvert, for me, it's easier to create an event than to show up to an event. Because I'm almost like, I'm in charge, right? I'm like, okay, I don't need to talk to one person because I can just talk to a little bit everybody and connect people, and like they can all talk, and I don't need to do much. So try to facilitate events on your own if you're looking for something specific that doesn't exist.
Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah, and I feel like doing it virtually is easier for some reason, at least for me, like less intimidating for me to meet people virtually than in person.
Yeah, because it's like, what do I do with my hands? Do I cross them? Do I hold
Do
them?
I
Do I
just,
sit?
I
Do I
usually put
stand? Do
my
I put them
hands in
in my
my pockets.
Yeah. And usually it's not one-on-one conversations when you're networking in a group and somebody's facilitating, right? So when I do my in-person events, it is a very curated. I don't let people just talk because it's awkward for people. And I don't want anybody to feel awkward. So when I do my in-person events, right away, we just share to one another what we do. And that opens up the vulnerable conversations, and people become more open to other discussions in the future. So we do networking, we do workshops or panels. When my girlfriends are coming, we're going to do a community building panel. So I'm going to ask them questions, and then we do brainstorming. So we work through problems that we have in business. So try to attend events that fit you. If you're going to an event and you're like, there's going to be just a room with 200 people and that doesn't work for you, try to facilitate one that does, with curated networking, with sit down options, things that fit your personality. And if it doesn't exist, just create it. And message me and I'll help you create it.
Yes.
I'll give you my top pointers.
Wonderful. So thank you so much. I mean, I can't believe how time flies. So you said message me. So now it kind of gets me to the final questions. How can people find you?
Yeah, so I am on LinkedIn, Inbal Claudio, and also Instagram at Inbal Claudio. And Like Minded Collective is at like.minded.collective. The website is likemindedcollective.com. And like I said, it's completely free. We have a subscription. We have a membership as well. That's more hands-on. So we do brainstorming twice a month in smaller groups, and we do hot seat coaching. So I bring in a coach and they help answer questions. There's no pitching. It is just to help. And that's $59 a month. So 4 times a month, we really dive into your business and help. So, but other than that, everything is free. Networking, we have workshops, community, all of that.
Sounds wonderful. I'm in.
Yay!
Thank you so much, Inbal. It's been a pleasure and so insightful to talk with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so good talking to you.